Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Brian Jones and I'm a Heartfulness trainer, and I'm really glad to be here, and I'm glad that you're tuning in here with me. So, anyway, I'm here on a new time slot, so it's going to be Mondays at 10 Eastern, which I think is 7:30 India Standard Time. So I hope that works for all of you. And I see people are starting to join in. So I'll give it another minute and take a little sip of water. Oh, have a really nice day out. Nice. It's a rainy day today, and we needed a little bit of rain. It's so nice. Took my chair and sat in the front window and opened up the windows and just listened to the sound of the rain. I'm having my morning coffee and just to watch the birds, and they come down and visit me. It's such a nice morning. I love it. It's great to commune with nature. And let me ask all of you something. Um, uh, you know, and of course, this depends on if you live in the city or the country, but how many times do you step out at night and maybe you're going to go visit a friend, or you're going to go to the movies, or you're just going somewhere, okay? And you step out at night and it's somewhat a clear sky, and you look up at the stars, and just say, wow, that's amazing. I'm curious as how many people take a moment to just, look at the amazing universe that is around us and that we're all a part of. And when we talk about the universe, we usually think of the external universe, right? But there is an entire universe inside of us. And in this path of heartfulness meditation, we explore that universe, and we uncover that universe. So today, speaking of universe, I'm going to talk about universal. The path of heartfulness is being something that's universal, a universal path. I mean, what a concept. Is it possible? Is it possible to have something that unites us all? Well, I think that there is. So I'm going to talk about that today. So before I get started, let me just say hello to a few people. I'm going to say hi to Devinder, Gayatri, Nadapur, Anshu, Becky. Hi, Becky. Towards Divinity, love your name. Rita, welcome. Okay, glad you're all here. And I am really sorry for my friends on Instagram that this program does not allow me to get the Instagram feed, the program that I use to broadcast. So I'm going to work on that for the future so that I can interact with you, because I want to, but we'll get there. Ravi, Veena, welcome. Glad you're here. So I want to say something before I get started. Okay, these first few sessions that we've done, they've sort of been a little experimental. We're just trying to work out all of the details and the timings and the format of what we're doing. And I want you to know that I'm really going to gear everything that I'm doing to you younger folks out there, okay? Those of you who are under the age of, 35, 30 on down. And not that I'm going to be unrelatable to the older folks. I'm not abandoning that, but I just, in my work on Quora, I write on Quora. Maybe some of you know that. And I have a lot of young people contact me, and they do so because they're looking for some kind of guidance. They feel a bit confused with their spiritual path, their journey, things in life that are happening to them. I mean, some of the emails I get are really, I feel so bad sometimes about the things that young people are going through, and they just don't have all the direction they would like to have. So anyway, that's important to me. So I want you to know, all young people out there, that I want to be here for you, and you can always reach out to me. So I want you to know that. All right. So now I'm going to talk about heartfulness as a universal path. What does it take for something to be universal? Well, I think, it has to be universal to everybody. Now we can look at our body. We can say, okay, well, our body is universal. We all have a body. We all have a heart. We all have a brain. We all have a mind. So these things are universal to us. But when we're talking about coming together as one humanity in the bigger scheme of things, what does it mean to be universal? Okay, so in this practice, we have a lineage of spiritual guides. We call them guides, spiritual masters. Some people call them gurus. And I've been involved with this method for a long time, and I've known 3 of the 4 spiritual guides I've had a chance to meet and spend time with. So I want to talk about my first meeting with my first spiritual guide in this method, whose name is Babuji. And I want to share something with you that really puts this in perspective at a very human level, this idea of being universal. So, and I may have talked about this in one of the other episodes, but I want to come back to it again because this is an important point. So I first met him in Germany in 1980, yes. And at that time, our organization was really just getting started. I mean, when the group, there was only maybe 100 of us that were there to be with Babaji for a few days. And the very first day we got there, and Babaji was so amazing. I mean, he was just radiating this beautiful, divine presence. You could just feel it. And we just sat in silence for the first 10, 15 minutes. And then someone from Germany asked a question to him about alcohol. And they asked this question about alcohol because in Germany, and of course in America too, when I was young, I was drinking all the time. I wasn't perfect. But in Germany, it's part of their culture. I mean, they even serve beer at McDonald's. So someone asked Babaji this question: Babaji, talk to us about alcohol. And Babaji said, alcohol is forbidden in this method. Now, that in itself was a bit shocking because Babaji always used to say, only that which is forbidden is forbidden. So he never wanted to say something was forbidden, because then if you did it anyway, then you would be guilty for doing it. So he never wanted to make people feel guilty. But here, for the first time, he was saying that alcohol is not permitted in this method. And the people from Germany there really got anxious about him saying that. And they said, but Babaji, it's part of our culture. We drink alcohol we have beer even for breakfast. And Babaji said something universal. He said, culture has nothing to do with this path. Wow. Culture has nothing to do with this path. So here's a tip. This was a tip from Babaji, is that if we think about this, how do we get to having something universal, heart connection that brings us together as humanity? Well, okay, so it must be something that transcends our culture, transcends our beliefs, transcends our race, transcends our gender, transcends everything. It must transcend all of these things in order for it to be universally practiced and accepted. Okay, so that's one thing. Now, the second thing that makes something universal is having a goal or objective that we would all be working towards arriving at. Now, we all know about evolution. So, evolution is also universal. We're all evolving. And for millions of years, evolution was a biological process of adaptation. So, species, when the environment would change, species would very slowly have to adapt physically to that environment. And it would take a long period of time. But something happened, in the past 125 years. Something took place. And we saw an amazing evolution of the mind. And suddenly, if we look back 125 years ago, we didn't have phones, we didn't have electricity, we were riding horses. So something happened, universal. Oh, wow. Yes, we had a universal evolution of our mental capacities. And that opened up huge vistas, suddenly opened up to us of in the creative fields of the arts. That sort of almost led the way. People, the artists of the days at the turn of the century in the 1800s to the 1900s, art used to be based on realism. And suddenly artists suddenly decided, wait a minute, I just want to paint the spirit of what I'm seeing. I don't want to paint it realistically. I want to capture the light. And this gave birth to the Impressionists. Okay, I'm sure Vincent van Gogh. We have Matisse. We have Picasso. We have Cezanne. We have not Rembrandt. He's back in the realist. But anyway, so it gave birth to a whole different way of thinking. Okay, and it was almost a universal. Around so many different countries, artists suddenly wanted to paint in a completely different way. Music suddenly changed very radically. Okay, music used to be very structured. Everybody had their sheet music. Everything was followed, to the letter. And now we have something that started actually in America in the 1900s and in France and all through Europe. And it was the birth of jazz music, where musicians just got together and they didn't have any kind of sheet music. They could just get together and just play. They could just jam. It was so liberating. So we saw at the turn of the century, we saw a universal type of evolution that was happening, right? And people from around the world were evolving. Now that mental evolution has given way. We're on the heels of a spiritual evolution. We can call it an evolution of our consciousness. And this too is something that's universal. It's something that we are all, knowingly or unknowingly, we are all participating in this. Wow. And the things we're seeing happen in the world, we're seeing a spiritual movement all around the world, that people have transcended the previous ideologies and beliefs of the era of religion. And I'm not knocking religion. Religion is still very much around. But, now we have the spirituality movement. We're moving into a whole different level of thinking about who we are as human beings. Where did we come from? Where are we going? Okay. Science doesn't have all those answers. So what we call spirituality is sort of our journey of wonder. Okay, so these are all things that point to our universal nature. So now I'm going to go one further and talk about something that's unique to heartfulness and why I feel heartfulness is a universal method. Okay, now hang in there with me, everybody. All right. So there are 4 main forces from the beginning of the universe that that are universal, that shape our universe and are recognized by science as shaping our universe. And those four forces we know as gravity, electromagnetic forces, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. Now, if you're not a science person, that's okay. I like science, but I'm not a scientist. These forces, they impact everything in our known universe. Our planet rotating around the sun, force of gravity. We have nuclear forces, radiation from the sun. We have electromagnetic forces, in the form of not only something like lightning, but we have electromagnetic forces in our entire body. So these four forces, they are universal, and they're universal in that they act upon us. But here's what I want to propose. I believe that there is a universal, subtle force that acts from within us. And it is something that is so subtle that perhaps science can't measure it. Okay, so we can't validate it. At this point, we can't validate it through scientific methodologies, but we can, as human beings, we can experience this. All of us can experience this, what I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about is something called pranahuti. Prana is the life essence. It's something that's even beyond this dimension. It's beyond even those four forces of nature. And in this method of heartfulness, the spiritual guides, the masters, they discovered and reintroduced this method of transmission of this prana. They could transmit this prana to the heart of a person, and that person would feel that working within them, and it would go to transform them in a very short period of time, because this prana, it causes growth. So prana is an evolutionary force. And I think that the introduction of this transmission back in the end of the 1800s by Lalaji, who was born in 1873, I think the introduction of this prana was possibly the very thing that triggered this fantastic advancement in our own evolution. Now, in heartfulness, we utilize transmission every time we sit with a trainer and meditate with a trainer. We utilize this transmission. And when we sit together and meditate in a group with someone who's a trainer who's giving the sitting. But more so than that, what I want to say is that the universality of this is you get to a point where once this inner principle is awakened within, then you can draw it on your own when you sit and meditate. You draw the transmission, because really speaking, the transmission is everywhere. This prana is everywhere. So it's sort of a misnomer that we're transmitting something from here to there, but it's a little mysterious. So we can't quite understand how this works. But what I will say about this prana, if for those who haven't experienced it yet, that it's something that works beyond time and space. Now, I'll share some of my personal experience with this. As I said, I'm a writer on a platform called Quora, which is read by about 180 million people a week are on there. And I've been writing on there regularly for about 7 years. So I write about heartfulness. I write about my own experiences with meditation. I write about my experiences with the master. I write about my cosmic experiences, inner experiences that I've had. I've had a lot of them. And I share those because I want people to know, hey, let's look at the bigger picture of who we really are. And let's evolve ourselves to awaken that within us. So as a result of this, a lot of people contact me on Quora, and I've meditated with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people and given them a sitting. And a sitting is simply where a trainer is sitting with another person, either one person or 10 people or whatever, and meditating together. That's called a sitting. So I have given sittings to so many hundreds and hundreds of people around the world. And here's the thing about it, is that most of the time, we've just set a time that corresponds to our time zones. Okay, I'm going to sit at 10 a.m. My time, and you're going to sit at 7:30 your time. But here's the thing. Most of the time, I don't know the person's real name. I do not know where they're located. I have not talked with them on Zoom or any other way. I've never heard their voice. I don't know anything about them at all. All that I know is I've received an email and we've agreed to sit and meditate together. And they receive the transmission. Okay, they receive the transmission. They report back to me. This is how I felt. And I'll share. So here, before I share this next thing. So, I feel that this is something that's universal. This has nothing to do with one's beliefs. It has nothing to do with one's culture. It has nothing to do with our race. It has nothing to do with our gender. Okay? It's something transcendent. It's something universal. And everybody can experience it. That makes it universal. So, what an idea. Having a path that's not a religion, but something very practical that we all experience together and evolve from together in a way that's universal. Isn't it amazing? So we're going to meditate together. But before we do, I want to share just an absolutely beautiful story that relates to what I just was talking about. So I had a situation come up on Quora where I had 3 different people that wanted to get a sitting. And in order for me, I was a little bit busy. In order for me to make this work, I scheduled them all at the same time for a sitting, the same time for me. Now, they were sitting in different places in their own time zones. And none of them had any idea at all that anyone else was sitting with them. Each of these 3 people thought that they're sitting with me as an individual sitting. Now, one of them was in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, I'm pretty sure it was. And they were basically of a Muslim faith. One of them was from another country in Europe, and they were from Jerusalem, actually, and they were from the Jewish faith. Okay. The third person was from Alabama here in the United States, and he was brought up in the Christian faith. Now, I found out this after the fact. Okay. So here I sit in meditation, and I know that these 3 people, wherever they are in those respective countries of the world, I have the thought that they're going to receive this prana, this transmission. Afterwards, I had sent them an email and I said, please report to me, your experience of this meditation session. And do you know that each of them reported the exact same thing? The exact same thing. None of them knew. Each was from a different culture, a different faith. None of them knew we were all meditating together. and experiencing something that was totally universal. Isn't it beautiful? I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. So this is why I am so excited about heartfulness. I've been doing this for 50 years. I'm as excited as I have ever been about this path and the amazing and beautiful experiences that I've had, and that I just long to share this with others, and that's what I do. I spend my life doing that. Because I see it as something so important. This is a way, it's a way forward. And look, I don't want anyone out there to think that heartfulness is something you got to join. And I know a lot of our people, they talk about it. Oh, come and join us. Join. Look, it's not something you join. You're already a part. We're joining with you. We're all joining together. Yeah. It's not a club. It's not a new religion. We're all joining in together in a practice where we can go within and have the same beautiful evolutionary experience together. That, to me, is heartfulness. And I invite you now to have an experience of this all together. We're going to experience unity. And I'll guide us through this process. The meditation we're going to do is very, very simple. It's incredibly simple. So I want you all to sit comfortably. Just sit comfortably. And just a couple of tips. You don't have any expectations. You don't sit here thinking, oh, I'm going to now receive the transmission. Don't have any expectations. Just sit comfortably. And I just want you to be open, your heart to be open to receive and feel what's there. So I'll guide us into this meditation. And afterwards, we will sit silently for about 15, 20 minutes. And at the end, you'll clearly hear me say, that's all. And I will bring us out of the meditation. So with that, let's get started. Okay. So sit comfortably. Feel your body is comfortable, but yet supported. And just feel your muscles are letting go. Let your arms drop down and let your shoulders drop down. Let's take a very slow, deep breath in. And let it go. Let your body relax a little more. Now, very gently, I'd like you to let your awareness just drop down out of your head. Just let it drop down and rest on your heart. And I mean just the area of your heart. Rest your attention on your heart. And let's rest on this subtle idea that we're just meditating on the source of light, the source of lightness, the very source of the life within that's already present in our heart. Feel it's inviting you inwards. If any thoughts arise, gently come back to the source of light in the heart and feel it's welcoming you inwards. Let's stay with this thought. And that's all. So please keep your eyes closed. And just feel that sense of oneness, that sense of unity. Now have the thought that every particle of your being is deeply absorbing this meditative state. Feel that you're becoming one with it. Whenever you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Okay. So I just want to say that, when you have an opportunity to share this experience, share this practice with someone else, really what we're sharing, all that we need to share is just to invite them to have an experience, because the that's the real proof of the universal aspect. If we tell people, well, you join and we have this thing and this thing and this thing and this and this book, and you read this and this and this, you know, it's sometimes overwhelming at first, So the first thing is, let's invite people to experience the universal aspect of this nature within their own self, and then things will happen naturally after that. Okay, everybody. Sangita, Anshu, Vijaya, Sangita, Chandrani, Jyoti, Jyotsna, Arvind. Okay, everybody. So that's going to conclude our session for today. And I want to let you know that, Uma, you all know, everybody knows Uma. Uma will be on Wednesdays, so you can look for that on the social posts. And of course, Daji will be live on Saturday with the Dilsei which has been really fantastic. So you want to tune into both those sessions. So, and I'll be back Monday next week, where we will again experience our universal method together, and I'll take up another topic. So all the best. And as I always say, stay with the heart, and I'll see you soon.